What's good, everybody? You know what? Good Phantom morning, in fact. I just had this fucking amazing thought, and I was thinking about how, like, well, it's really just something normal that goes on. But I like to put things in my own creative way and explain them. It's like when you're in your own space. You have thoughts, you have feelings and stuff like that, right? And we operate in the Yang realm, conscious realm, the external realm. What appears to be to the eyes and shit like that, right? But see, subconsciously in the Yin realm, it's like whatever space you are in is kind of like an energetic highway almost, where it's like subconsciously in the yin realm we kind of like resonate with spirits that kind of resonate with similar vibrations and frequencies and shit like that, right? And that's why a lot of the times, like, the saying, birds of the same feather flock together, because these are people that share similar thoughts, similar feelings, maybe even similar traumas and similar issues in their life and things like that, right? Sometimes these things can just come from culture, religion, and the environment that a person grew up in and things like that. But back to this, back to the spirit. Let's get into the spirit. Let's not get into the physical. So it's like when you have thoughts and feelings on your mind, hopefully, I'm hoping that everybody is in a little bit more of a positive space than they were yesterday. Because, every day is a new opportunity, is a new chance. And, every day is an uphill battle to get out of that negativity, to get out of that trauma, to put yourself in a space that's better than you were yesterday. So you can wake up. It's like every day we wake up and we shed the skin like a snake. We shed that old awareness, that old consciousness, or we have a choice to stay in that old awareness and that old consciousness. I know one issue I had certainly was dealing with traumas and negative thought forms from childhood, just things like that. What I'm saying? Things that I should have been getting over a long time ago, so I can allow the dunya. In Arabic that means the world. In English, you may say the universe, to open up its abundance and blessings for you and shit like that, because these things do exist. It's just a lot of the times, like, I do notice because of our early programming that, because of negative circumstances and situations that's on a person's mind for a long time, that become just thought forms and cycles that they're in. A lot of the times that'll create some type of resistance a lot of the times. So wonderful opportunities, wonderful people, maybe there for you already, but a lot of the times it's because of the space we are in, because of the thoughts and feelings that occupy our mind, which create our reality, we may become resistant to certain things, right? So let's say, for example, a person don't truly love themselves, they don't really feel fulfilled, and here comes someone in their life that genuinely loves them for whatever reason and shit like that. Well, they're more likely to reject that because they may not necessarily be in that space as well. So it'll play out as like a resistant moment where it's like, no, I'm gonna resist this. I don't want this, not because it's not good, but because a person might believe that they don't deserve this, they shouldn't have this, for whatever programming they may have went through when they were younger and things like that. But when you just slowly and surely get up out of that every day, and it's an uphill battle, and it's your pace, it's your personal battle, and can nobody really truly interfere, with what you do in your mind, because it's your own mind, it's your own body, your own consequences and things like that. What I mean? Sooner we learn, sooner the better, obviously. But subconsciously, it's like when we have more positive thoughts, more positive feelings, things of gratitude, things that are more fulfilling, fulfill ourselves rather than becoming devoid and hollow and things like that, because I feel like this world really sucks on your energy and things like that. It really messes with your energy field. People show up to jobs every day they don't want to go to, and have negative thoughts and feelings on their mind, and then develop coping mechanisms that that they use to deal with their everyday life and things like that, and they just can become you can get spun really quickly to the point that you may lose track of what's actually going on. You know what I mean? Some people like get in like massive amounts of debt and shit like that. They get lost in their pleasures, overindulge, and then don't know what happened to their goddamn bank account a few years later and shit. But yeah, back to the topic, man. Like when you develop positive thoughts and feelings on your mind, it's very powerful, because it plays out as an influence. It plays out as a stimuli. Your body's biology will begin to operate even differently and things like that, right? I know one problem that people that deal with the survival, the fight or flight energy, or the survival mode energy and shit like that, is a lot of the times a person's amygdala can be firing so much cortisol and so much adrenaline, because subconsciously the mind still believes in that survival mode. So a person may be walking around and everything may be okay around them, but biologically speaking, their body may still be firing a mechanism that mimic, like, they're running away from a lion or some shit like that. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's when that shit could kick in. So some people are literally walking around 24/7, like they're running away from a lion or something. Like their life depends on running away from something and shit like that, you know. And that's that from a biology perspective and shit. But when you start to like really regulate your mind, which automatically regulates your biology, because the mind is what governs our biology and shit like that. We start to deal with these thought forms, deal with these feelings and shit like that, right? You start to be able to regulate your biology. Automatically regulates your nervous system, automatically regulates your lymphatic system, and a lot of our mind, like really we want to deal with the mind first, because the mind come first, and then the body and shit like that, because we're all just spirit. We create a mind, and then we just got a body that we operate the mind through and shit like that, right? So when you deal with the mind, you'll also be able to deal with your biology and shit like that, right? And so when you're able to regulate yourself, when you're able to, you know, and all these things are simultaneous in a sense. I just don't like to get into lost into science too much left brain and shit, because they like to separate spirituality and the spirit from like you know, the body and the brain and shit like that. That's why if you read Dr. Bruce Lipton, Biology of Belief, he shows you, he demonstrates to you through that book how beliefs affect your biology, how belief affects your mind, and things like that, right? Your beliefs literally affect your reality, your mind, your biology, and all these things, and you can look into that. Great book, by the way, you know. But yeah, it's like when we deal with the mind, when we're able to regulate these thoughts and feelings, because it's almost like something that we need to breathe out of our mind, of our reality, kind of like on the computer. This would be taking some files and putting them in the trash bin, and you know, emptying that shit out, deleting it. You know what I mean? Because to make room for something new, one first must get rid of what is already occupying that room. Like if I want to do some decoration for my room, or put in some new furniture, I might have to remove some of the old furniture out that's old and outdated and damaged, so I can bring in the new furniture, baby. I got that, bringing some blessings and shit like that. So same thing with the mind, same thing with the body, right? When we get rid of all these thought forms, all these feelings, all these, you know, subconscious programming and things like that, we make room for something else, right? And when we're able to make room for something else, we're able to invite new energy, new influences into our life, just via what we engage in every day, right? The mind is engaged every day with thoughts and feelings. The body is engaged physically by carrying out those behaviors of those thoughts and feelings, how those things come together and shit. And then it's like that becomes our life. So when we learn to just do something else, because that's a pattern basically. A lot of the times, like, it'd be a pattern that people were in, it'd be a cycle that people are in, and that'd be like the negative pattern and shit like that. They might not know how to get out of that negative pattern and shit. So it's literally just a matter of almost just doing something else. Because like whatever we occupy our mind with, that's gonna be, you know, our reality. But if you do something else, you will, in real time, you will almost kind of like engage with something. These thoughts and feelings will be sitting in the back. And then while you do that something else, it's like you're developing new thoughts, new feelings on your mind while you're doing it. Let's say, for example, you know, a person had a very negative life, but let's say they get into drawing and all they do is draw. And let's say they start to read books, or they start to take hikes and things like that, right? And a lot of the times the mind will try to distract us and, you know, bring us back into these old thoughts and feelings. But like I said, it's an everyday battle, and that's just a part of the challenge, you know what I mean? But yeah, it's like literally just start to do anything else, and then you start to like shift as well. Yeah, and then literally when you start to shift, you got to keep that cycle going, because it's an everyday battle. Your mind is always going to try to pull you in, right? Because how much energy, negative influences you experienced when you was a kid, and however much time you spent in those, willingly or unknowingly, like willingly, unknowingly, or knowingly, or whatever, right? You have to put just as much time and energy to get out of these old things into some new things and shit like that, right? And that's like that's a part of the whole thing, right? And so it's like, but when we begin to do these things, when we begin to shift, you develop a new mind. You become almost like a new person. You become you become renewed, almost like the same neurons, the same way your mind was making connections before. It's no longer making those same connections and things like that. So now it's making new connections, you know. There's a new party in town, you know. There's a new party of thoughts, a new party of feelings coming together, you know. Hopefully ones that create harmony rather than disharmony, you know. And then it's like, yeah, it's like it's the yin realm, the subconscious is like an energy highway, you know. whatever we resonate with, that's literally where we go physically with our body and stuff like that. Because before we even do anything with our body, we first have to think and feel it with our mind. Before you do anything with your body, you have to think and feel it with your mind. Sometimes, like when I don't want to work out, I might be like, man, you know what? I'm feeling tired. I'm feeling lazy today. Well, hear my body, hear my mind, mimicking those traits. I'll feel tired. I'll be like, oh, let me go to sleep. But if I don't say that to myself, if I don't repeat that to myself, then my energy stays normal. Things are regulated, because that's like putting a spell on yourself. So you want to be able, so you want to know what you're doing with these energies and shit like that, so you don't get lost in the sauce and shit. You know what I mean? And pretty much, yeah, it's like the yin realm is like an energy highway, and everything you ever wanted or needed it will come to you effortlessly and easily. It's just a matter of actually dwelling in that space and actually continuously, getting out of that old space so you can, jump into a new reality. What they call, I think, quantum jumping or shifting realities and shit like that. It's almost just about shifting perceptions and shit like that. But yeah, that's pretty much it, everybody. Have a lovely day. Take care of y'all selves. Take care of y'all space. I'm gonna see y'all on tomorrow's motherfucking video, no doubt. Peace.